What's up, guys? UFC 299 just wrapped up and it was a pretty good card from beginning to end. I would give it like a 7.5 out of 10 for a pay-per-view card. I did really well on the picks for this card. 11 out of 14 correct. Both of my locks won as well. And let's start with that main event. Sean O'Malley defeats Chito Vera by a lopsiding decision. He dominated Chito. He completely outclassed him. I understand Chito's style is not to go forward, not to put pressure, kind of just waiting for his moments. But against a guy who's so much longer than you fought him before, he's going to be keeping himself on the outside. You got to put pressure on him. You can't beat a long fighter who has good distance management by standing still. You have to move forward. You got to put pressure on them. You got to cut off the cage. And Chito only started to do that when it was already too late. And that's how usually his fights go. If he was pressuring more, attempted to cut off the cage, became more aggressive, I think he would have a lot more success in this fight. But the reason why Chito was not as active in this fight was because he didn't have any Factor. This video is brought to you by Factor, the best place to get food online, and there's no other service like them. They make everything easy for you. You don't have to go out to get groceries, no trips, no prepping, nothing. Factor does it all for you. And during the cold, who wants to go out there and shop for groceries and stuff, much easier and better to get meals prepared by gourmet chefs delivered to you. You pick the meals that you want, and there's a whole variety for you, from protein plus to vegan diets to calorie smart diets, and a whole menu under each category. They'll deliver it to you ready to heat up and eat. That's all there is to it. And for this one, I got the chorizo chili, pretty simple meal, I might go with this one, but I also got the jalapeno popper burger and the vegetarian tamale bowl, but I'm probably going to go with the chorizo chili. I want something a little bit simple for this one and just easily warm it up, and I always get different kind of beverages, and Factor is giving you an offer by clicking the link in the description below or heading to factor75.com. You can get 50% off your first Factor order by using the promo code TheWeasel50. Again, just click the link in the description below, use the promo code TheWeasel50, and everything will be ready for you from there. He actually landed some good shots when he went forward. Good body shots, good left hooks over the top, but maybe he was expecting O'Malley to close in distance on him for some reason. I really don't understand Chito's game plan in this fight. Even his coach, Jason Perillo, was telling him, yo, you gotta go forward, man. You gotta bring the fight to him. And Sean O'Malley was treating Chito like a heavy bag for most of that fight. Taking off angles, 1-2s, great high kicks, spinning attacks, good spinning back kicks to the body, good leg kicks as well. Great performance by Sean O'Malley, man. And a gritty performance from Chito Vera. He took a lot of damage. I mean, that one knee he took would have knocked out anybody else but Pedro Munhoz. And I don't remember the last time Chito actually got hurt in a fight where he was visibly distraught and moving away. I believe it was that one big right hand in the 5th round from Sean O'Malley that really stunned Chito. But after this fight, it's Sean O'Malley versus Merab. There's no one else. And as for Chito, I think he should fight Petr Yan. And then we go to the co-main event. Dustin Poirier knocks out Benoit Saint Denis. Benoit was walking into so many punches, man. I felt bad for the guy after, because he seems really cool and humble. He was in the special forces in France and stuff, served his country. To see him go out like that was kind of brutal. And the follow-up shot Dustin hit him with, so he knocked him out with the check right hook. That was a picture-perfect check right hook. Like, that's a highlight reel of a knockout. But then he hit Benoit with an even more powerful punch while Benoit was unconscious. And Dustin was put in the worst positions in the fight against Benoit. Like, Benoit had his back. Benoit was throwing combinations, swarming him against the fence. He was doing all this stuff he's known for, and Dustin still pulled ahead. He beat the best version of Benoit after getting out the most dangerous positions too. Who I think these two should fight next, I think Dustin Poirier should go up against the winner of Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway. If they do Gaethje again, that's a good trilogy. They're 1-1 with each other. They both finish each other. And as for Max, I mean, a rematch would still be pretty fun. Even though Dustin did beat him, I don't think anybody would complain to see a rematch between Poirier and Max. Benoit Saint Denis, on the other hand, I think should fight RDA. Michael Venom Page makes easy work out of Kevin Holland. I don't remember the last time Kevin Holland had to resort to wrestling because of the issues he was having in the stand-up with someone. Even Wonderboy was not able to revert Holland into a wrestler. I think it was a combination of the power from the shots that he was eating. I mean, he couldn't take too many of those. as well as just the puzzle with the footwork. I mean, he didn't know how to track down MVP whatsoever. He was throwing haymakers from a distance, and MVP saw everything coming from a mile away. The shots that he was landing on Holland would have KO'd so many fighters. I mean, the spinning elbows he was nailing him with. It's just shocking he took those. I don't really understand how he did. Getting sniped over and over again. He ate that big body kick as well, a big leg kick in the first round. Kevin Holland was taking a lot of shots, but almost did get the rear naked choke in the second round. He did get on top and landed some good ground and pound, and I think that's where MVP said that he needs to work on things, because in the stand-up, yeah, he couldn't get the knockout, but I don't think it's really his fault. He landed the best shots he could. It's just Holland is made out of adamantium. Like, this guy's different. If MVP was hitting Wonderboy with these shots, or if he was hitting Leon Edwards with these shots, or Bilal Muhammad, etc. Like, these guys would not be able to take the same punishment that Holland just did. But can he land them on those guys? That's the only thing. Holland's a little bit easier to hit, and also Holland benefits from being longer than most of his opponents. He was fighting a guy who was practically the same length as him, and he couldn't find the distance. A lot of Holland's striking resorts to his attributes, his power, reach, and the speed of his right hand. When he fought someone who's faster than him, is just as long as him, is way more experienced in striking than him, this was always going to be a difficult fight for Kevin Holland. And I'm sure when MVP hit him with that first right hand to the jaw, he had to have been thinking, what is this guy made of? I've knocked out so many people with this very same punch, and he just took it, and then he took it again, and then he took it again. At a certain point, I know MVP was thinking, okay, I can't knock this guy out. He was coming into the octagon thinking he was going to get some big knockout. He hit the guy with the best shots he could, and he still wasn't going away. But great performance by Michael Venom Page. The next fight for him, if they are willing to fight each other, because I did hear that they're friends, him and Wonderboy is the perfect fight to put together. It's one of the best fights you could put on the welterweight division. But if not Wonderboy, I would like to see him fight Jeff Neal then. MVP versus Jeff Neal would be a very interesting fight as well. And I think MVP could give Jeff Neal a lot of issues in the stand-up. As for Kevin Holland, let's do Kevin Holland versus Renat. That would be an interesting fight. And then we go to the other welterweight fight. Jack Della Maddalena TKOs Gilbert Burns in the third round due to intercepting the takedown with a knee that lands partially with the thigh, but regardless, it's powerful, right? You're magnifying the damage when the forces collide at each other like this, head to knee. Gilbert Burns was hurt badly from the shot, and it was a very late stoppage too. Dan Miragliotta just keeps it going with these late stoppages. The elbows that Maddalena was hitting him with were just devastating. Too many of them were thrown at Gilbert Burns. But for the most part of this fight, Jack Della showed to be the better boxer of the two. Gilbert Burns resorted to wrestling, trying to get the fight to the ground where he's going to have the path of least resistance. And he was able to get the back a couple times. But Jack Della Maddalena had some good scrambles out of there, especially in the third round before he landed the knee. The way he rolled out of that was incredible. I gotta watch that a few more times. And to roll out of Gilbert Burns in that fashion is quite impressive, man. The big issue he did have, though, was the cradle. When Burns was cradling him, Jack Della had some issues of how to get out of there, but he was still able to rise into a single leg to pull himself up, showing much better grappling than he's ever shown before. And he was only throwing like 50% punches in the first two rounds. He was landing a lot of combinations, but he was letting Gilbert Burns get away from him whenever Jack Della put pressure. Until the third round came and the corner told him, you gotta finish this guy. Don't let him get away. Jack Della let out a grunt. He was ready to go. He was a little bit frustrated, probably more in himself than the style of Gilbert Burns. And he put like 80 to 100% power into most of the shots he threw, and he cut off Gilbert Burns so much better than before. He was showcasing smooth backstep left counters, good check right hooks, good body shots. Gilbert Burns didn't really have much for Jack Della in the stand-up, other than that one big overhand he did land on him. And I was shocked Jack took that punch because Gilbert swings heavy into those overhands. And I believe he did land on the chin too. So good finish by Jack Della Maddalena. He just defeated the number 4 ranked. I mean, he's jumping up from 11 all the way to potentially in the top 5. And he called out Shavkat Rakhmonov. That makes sense. If Bilal's going to fight Leon, let's do Shavkat versus Jack Della in a number 1 contender fight. And as for Gilbert Burns, I think he might drop to like 6 or 7, and Sean Brady might be a pretty good fight for him next. Brady's coming off a win over Kelvin Gastelum, and his only loss is to the number 2 Bilal Muhammad. So let's do Burns versus Brady and Jack Della versus Shavkat. And then we go to Petr Yan defeating Song Yadong by a decision. It was getting rough for Petr in the beginning, man. I was starting to think this guy's washed, but then I remembered he always starts slow. He always needs time in order to download data and read the opponent, and is exactly what he did. He looked so good in the second and third rounds, man. That one takedown he shot on Song Yadong and got him on the ground was so fast in the second round, dipping for uppercuts to the body and to the head because Song was throwing a lot of punches up top. and he was defending the takedowns much easier than before. Great to see that Petr Yan got himself back into the win column. He definitely needed a win like this. It was a good fight, but man, Petr Yan greatly benefits when a fight is 5 rounds. Losing the first round of a 3-round fight is always worrisome, and that seems to always be a thing for Petr Yan, man. He needs to ask for some Fight Night main events whenever he doesn't fight for a title. So Petr Yan is the number 4. He just defeated the number 7 Song Yadong. What do we do with him next? I would say give him Chito for his next fight. And as for Song Yadong, give him Umar Nurmagomedov. Then we go to Curtis Blaydes, finishing Jailton Almeida by TKO in the second round. That's the way you finish off someone who's trying to constantly spam takedowns on you, hold on to you the whole fight. The first round was very dicey for Blaydes. He was actually getting completely out-wrestled, and he's one of the best wrestlers in the heavyweight division. Almeida's control with the body lock was constantly causing the sweeps and the trips and the slams to work against Curtis Blaydes, and Blaydes had a hard time prying open the grip. At first, he wasn't focusing on that until his corner was telling him to do it. Right, he constantly was looking at his corner for advice, and even from there, he wasn't able to get out of the grip of Jailton Almeida and get away from the fence. So he needed the round to end, get into the second, where they're going to be striking with each other, and he needs to get his back off of the fence. Jailton was starting to throw a bit, and I was expecting him to maybe stay in the stand-up a little bit, and I thought the crowd was getting to him because they were definitely not happy with the first round. They were very bored of it, and Almeida finally was throwing punches. I mean, this guy usually just throws front kicks. But then he shot another double leg, and Curtis Blaydes knew there's no way I'm letting this guy do this again. And he just let the hands go. Hammer fists, and it looked like Jailton Almeida just malfunctioned. He didn't even know how to move out of it. Curtis Blaydes did mention how he was keeping his body weight, especially his belly, as he says, on top of Almeida's head so he couldn't drive up. So he was kind of trapped under the belly of Curtis Blaydes. The hammer fists are hitting his head inward, and he can't move his head to the right side because that's where Curtis Blaydes' hip is at. So he was kind of stuck there. A quick and devastating finish from Curtis Blaydes that puts him right in line for a title shot. And he snapped the long win streak of Jailton Almeida. What you got to do next is Curtis Blaydes versus Tom Aspinall. You got to run it back because John Jones still wants to fight Stipe. If those two are going to fight each other, let's do the rematch because the Blaydes and Aspinall fight is very, very interesting. A lot of people seem to think that Aspinall is going to run right through him. Blaydes is one of the tougher fights for Aspinall in the heavyweight division, and it's not going to be too easy. And as for Jailton Almeida, he's ranked number 7, just lost to the number 5. I would say do him. Bro, this heavyweight division is completely cooked. I guess you do him versus Sergey Spivak because Spivak is ranked number 8, so he's right below him. Then we go to Maycee Barber defeating Katlyn Cerminara. I'm going to have to get used to that. Not the funnest fight to watch. It wasn't even that technical either. Both fighters spent a lot of time with an over and under in the clinch, trying to get the better of the positions. Maycee Barber was ultimately the better grappler of the two, able to get down Katlyn a few times in the fight. Didn't really do much with the takedowns. Whereas Katlyn, when she got in the clinch, she was able to land some good knees at times, but it was mostly inactive. She had a lot of success from distance though, but just barely separated to use her range against Maycee Barber because Barber's distance management is just not that good. She reaches for punches and even kicks that are very obvious, and she was doing this thing I just don't understand. She was trying to hide her high kick, but then would scream before she throws it. You're telling them what you're doing. A lot of the female fighters do this kind of stuff where they scream before they throw punches and kicks, and you can't hide that anymore. The scream is just going to tell them that there's something coming their way. Unless they're really good with feinting. If they can feint while they scream and then throw something afterward, maybe that can work, but just a lot of the female fighters aren't doing that kind of stuff. Katlyn had some good jabs, some good front kicks, but Maycee Barber just got a top 5 win, so she's probably one fight away from a title shot because we know Erin Blanchfield versus Manon Fiorot is the number 1 contender fight, as Shevchenko and Grasso are most likely going to fight each other again. I think Maycee Barber should get maybe the loser of Grasso and Shevchenko, and that would be the new title eliminator fight. As for Katlyn, I would like to see her versus Natalia Silva. Then we go to Mateusz Gamrot defeating Rafa dos Anjos by a decision. This was something. Mateusz Gamrot just uses wrestling to beat Rafa dos Anjos. He was dropping for the takedowns, which is very weird, and is exactly what DC was saying. I was actually expecting RDA to time a flying knee on him, and there was a time that he did after DC mentioned it, where he threw the flying knee but didn't time it at all. He just expected Mateusz Gamrot to drop to his knees again, but in that moment, Gamrot faded out with the jab, starting to land his hands, but it was just ultimately the wrestling. RDA's had this problem for a few years now. It's hard to get extremely dominant positions on him. It's hard to get him in submissions. It's hard to hit him with big ground and pound shots, but man, can you control him. Gamrot pretty much did what Jailton Almeida was doing to Curtis Blaydes. It's just that RDA didn't have the kind of power or the commitment to just start throwing at Gamrot when he dropped to his legs. But that first round uppercut was crazy. That was a powerful punch thrown by RDA. He hurt Gamrot very badly with that uppercut, which I thought won him that round because Gamrot didn't really do too much with his wrestling. One of the judges did give Gamrot a 30-27 scorecard, which I disagree with. So the number 6 Gamrot just defeated the number 11 RDA. It's not really going to push him up in the rankings that much. Maybe it pushes him above Chandler, so he gets into the top 5. What about Kyler Phillips hitting a new level, man? Insane performance by him, just outclassing Pedro Munhoz from beginning to end. It was really like the second half of the first all the way to the end of the fight where he just had Pedro Munhoz's number. Now, there were a couple eye pokes. The cut was caused by a punch, but there was an eye poke there as well. That may have threw off Pedro Munhoz maybe, but Kyler Phillips looked like he was just a step ahead. Not just one, but multiple steps ahead of Pedro Munhoz. His technique was beautiful. I mean, the 1-2 pull 3, the 2 high kick into a spinning back fist, the right body kick into a right high kick, same side combos. He was mixing body shots with spinning attacks. I mean, it was just insane. It literally looked like he was a video game character, throwing off combinations. And Pedro Munhoz is an excellent opponent to fire off these combos at because he's gonna be there for most of them, but very impressive from Pedro Munhoz. Did you guys see how he was ducking those high kicks? And that was kind of cool. Just beautiful stuff from Kyler Phillips. His footwork was excellent too. Floating around the octagon. His defense under the fire was really good as well. Just super confident whatever Pedro Munhoz was throwing at him. And Munhoz kind of got stuck without being able to throw the calf kicks that he's known for because Kyler Phillips was constantly switching stances and also constantly feinting forward like he was going to attack with something long. So it kept Pedro Munhoz on edge, but there were a lot of jabs that he could have potentially countered with the low kick. But ultimately, just an amazing performance by Kyler Phillips. He is starting to hit his prime. And I think he's going to be a very difficult fighter to beat for a lot of these bantamweights. He was non-ranked and he just beat the number 13 Pedro Munhoz. I think he should get Rob Font next. Kyler Phillips versus Rob Font going up against another older guy in the top 15. That should be pretty good for him before he fights some of the younger ranked guys. And as for Pedro Munhoz, I would like to see him fight Mario Batista. Unfortunately for him, he's in a position where the UFC is going to use him to build up the younger guys, and it's not only going to be Kyler Phillips. Mario Batista is another really good fighter that can rise in the rankings. Then we go to Felipe Lins defeating Ian Cutelaba by a decision, terrorized the guy with calf kicks, and landed some really good punches whenever Cutelaba was trying to be aggressive, and Cutelaba had a good effort of putting pressure and try to take away the leg kicks as much as he could, but man, he just did not know how to check them. He didn't know how to move away from them. He was so flat-footed, he became an easy target, and Felipe Lins started to lose some steam in the third round a bit. He was looking to grab a hold of Ian Cutelaba, hold him against the fence, and Mike Beltran, who's usually a very good ref, he made a mistake of taking away Felipe Lins' position against the cage when Ian Cutelaba elbowed him to the back of the head, which was blatant. Like, that was the clearest back of the head elbow you're ever going to see. And Felipe Lins had to strike again. But actually, in a way, it could have worked out well for him because it gave him an opportunity to go for more leg kicks. But at the end of the day, Felipe Lins had a decent performance. Then Michel Pereira brutalizing Michel Alexiachuk. He got a rear naked choke submission in about a minute into the fight. This was such a savage finish. Destroyed Michel's body. That one right straight he landed was so powerful. Michel's reaction to it was like what you would see out of a video game, you know, like you get hit to the body and he curls over and stuff. Definitely showed that he was hurt, and Michel Pereira just swarmed him. Landed a big knee to the body in that one point where he grabbed around his neck, span him around for another knee to the body. I mean, just creative stuff that amplified the damage from the already powerful and explosive Michel Pereira. This guy should never have been at 170. He is a different kind of beast at 185. And he was way bigger than Michel. Like, way bigger. I don't know how this guy made 170. In fact, it looks like it's hard for him to make 185. Man, that was a beautiful rear naked choke right after all of that and put Michel to sleep. Michel did not want to tap out. Super impressive performance by Michel Pereira, man. And another crazy performance was Rebellas Despain, my lock of the card, annihilating Josh Parisian in 18 seconds. Came out there with that wide bladed stance, backing up Parisian and threw the high kick that lost balance. I was scared for him for a second because the heavyweight power, you know, if you slip and mess up, anybody could knock you out in this division. And Parisian tried. He tried to swarm him, but Rebellas Despain was fast enough to get away, literally running backwards, throwing haymakers, Even got touched by Parisian at one point, but it just did not faze him whatsoever. And he pushed Josh Parisian down with a big right haymaker to the jaw. The amount of power this guy was able to generate while literally running backwards is absolutely absurd. Most fighters cannot generate that kind of power. Moving backwards is one thing. Literally running backwards, throwing punches, is very hard to generate power for. This guy's already like top 10 talent. I mean, I could see him knocking out a couple guys in the top 10, honestly. Then we go to Asu Almabayev defeating CJ Vergara by a decision. A kicking and wrestling game plan got him to a pretty comfortable win here. Vergara landed a couple good shots, but it was mostly Almabayev's single leg takedown and top control got his back multiple times in the fight that really scored big time for him. Those single legs were so fast. Almabayev might be a problem for this division in the future because the kid is still very young. And the first fight on the card was Joanne Wood getting the decision win against Marina Moroz. Performed actually pretty good out there, a lot better than I expected. She came out there with decent front kicks. Marina Moroz was trying to land the hands on her. She was more taking that boxing approach, especially in the third round. Both fighters didn't really have the kind of power to hurt each other up until Joanne Wood just suddenly spanned for the back fist and caught Moroz completely unexpected. And then it was very strange how she was just spamming front kicks after that. You expect her to start throwing her hands, but I think her corner was telling her to just throw punches, stop throwing the front kick. When she started doing that, she was having a lot more success. So, man, this card was insane. Crazy card, and hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Make sure to leave in the comments below what you guys think about the card. What was your favorite fight, your favorite moment? Make sure to give the video a like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video.